you said, I do have something to tell you. I tried to kiss a girl at the bachelorette party.
Oh my gosh. We didn't
And I
see
was
a
like,
single
"Oh,
girl.
what did she say?" And you were like, no.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Behavioral Arts. My name is Spidey and I use my degree in sociology and psychology, my certifications in criminal interrogation and body language analysis, and over 10 years experience as an award-winning mentalist to teach people behavioral analysis and practical psychology on stages and television shows all over the world. This week's video is going to be a little bit different from other videos that we've done on the channel because this one is going to cover a specific situation from a very popular reality show on Netflix, one of their most popular shows on the entire platform, and something that happened that I got a lot of requests to cover because we have a very direct accusation from someone and a very direct denial. One person saying this happened, another person saying this did not happen. Now I'm gonna do this video in such a way that you'll be able to understand everything whether you watch the show or not. So we're gonna start by looking at just their behaviors and look at the body language, look at the way they're saying it, the facial expressions, even if you don't know who they are, to try to get a sense just based on behavior, which way you're leaning. Then we're gonna go back and look at the entire context of who these two people are and how it got to this moment. And we're gonna see if your opinion is gonna change, if it's gonna stay the same, if you're gonna get new information, if you're gonna get more confident in your opinion. Now, before we look at any of these clips, let's talk about reality shows in general. Because I know there's a few commenters who are gonna say, wait, how can you analyze this? These are all actors, this is all just a production, this is Hollywood, this isn't real what you're seeing. And anyone who says that doesn't understand the truth of reality shows, how they're produced, what the casting process is. And this is something I have a lot of experience with because for a long time in my career, I worked on television shows. I was part of the cast of competition shows, performance shows. I even did quite a few shows that had a reality element to it, to where we're interviewed backstage about how we're feeling about the competition and all this kind of stuff. So I've worked a lot with reality show producers, not to mention I have a ton of friends who have actually worked on reality shows. So the truth about these types of shows, for the most part, is that they are not fake, they're not acted, but they're not also entirely real. They're what I call manufactured or embellished reality. In other words, what you're seeing aren't actors. These aren't actors who are putting on a role, who are being told to fake scenarios. You're seeing real people in situations where the production helps drama along. So they set up situations where drama is going to happen. They ask very well scripted questions that brings the drama out. So very often when you see them sitting in front of the camera answering questions, there's a producer behind the camera asking very probing questions that are going to bring certain emotions out. And production knows how to guide that, how to edit that, how to put it together to bring out all the drama. Now, let's talk about Love is Blind specifically. I think this is a really great show for those who are interested in studying body language and behavior, because here's the concept. You have a whole bunch of men and a whole bunch of women in separate headquarters at the beginning of the show in the first episode of the season, and they go into these pods, which is basically just this room with a couch in it, looks really cozy, and you get to talk with someone on the other side. So it's kind of like speed dating at first, but you don't see the other person. You're just talking to them. You're connecting emotionally or verbally. And eventually connections are made and there are some proposals. So these are people who are proposing to someone that they've connected with but have never seen. So the first really great opportunity to study body language is when they first meet. Now remember, they're engaged, the door's open, they see each other for the first time. And in that moment, for those of us who are interested in body language, you can really see the excitement, the happiness. Sometimes it's a little awkward. Sometimes they don't know how to act. Sometimes you even see disappointment or it's not quite what they expected. Then the season goes on and they all go on vacation together for a week. Then they come back and they live together for a little while. So you see the relationship developing now in the real world. And all the way at the end, they step on the altar for their wedding and we find out if they are going to marry each other or if they're going to bow out and say, this isn't what I expected, or for whatever reason, I don't want to marry this person. So that's another opportunity to see throughout the weeks in the communication if we're feeling that connection or if we're feeling some sort of disconnect. Now, the specific couple that we're looking at today, there's a reason I got a lot of requests for this. This is a couple that had a lot of peaks and valleys, a lot of ups and downs. And then in the reunion episode, there was this big moment where one of them is for sure being deceptive because one of them is saying for sure something happened and the other one is saying that absolutely did not happen. So let's start with that. For those of you who don't watch the show, this is gonna be interesting because there's zero context, zero background. I just want you to look at this clip and try to figure out what's going on. Let's take a look.
He got a girl's number at the bachelor party or something, and they even talked about that. There was plenty of things.
What?
There was the
I got a
on
girl's
TV.
number at the bachelor party?
Cole, you told me that the night before our wedding.
Wait,
We
no,
got
I
together.
didn't.
Yes, you did. I saw you before the wedding. You said, I do have something to tell you. I tried to kiss a girl at the bachelorette party.
Oh my gosh.
You said, I'm engaged to get married and I just want to kiss one more girl. And she was like, no. And
Literally
I said, Cole,
never happened.
Cole, your words to me do not do anything for or to me anymore.
You're making up a story. There wasn't even girls at the saloon.
Okay, so there it is. So let me tell you about who these two people are. The gentleman's name is Cole and the lady's name is Zanab. And they met in the pods, you know, really got attracted to each other. He proposed to her when they met. We're gonna look at all this in a minute while we going back and look at the context. They had a really great beginning. And then there was some turmoil. I'm not gonna say quite yet what happened at the wedding, for those of you who don't know, because it's kind of crazy. But then in the reunion episode, this happened, where she flat out, as you could see, is saying that he told her the day of the wedding that he was hitting on another girl the night before, and he is flat out denying it. So for those of you who don't really know much about the show, just based on that, just based on the interaction you saw there, we have a direct accusation and a direct denial. Pause the video or go back and look at it again. Let me know in the comments, just say, you know, first impression before context, what you think. Who do you think is being deceptive there? Because one of them has to be. That either happened or it didn't. So who do you think, just based on instinct or behaviorally at this point, body language, facial expressions, word choice, who's being deceptive? Let me know in the comments. Okay, great. So now we all have a little bit of an impression as to which way we're leaning. Let's go back. Let's go back to their very beginning. Let's get all the context to see who these two individuals are, get our baselines, and form a more informed opinion. See if it changes or if you're gonna stick with your gut. The first thing I want you to look at is a brief clip from when they were in the pods. So keep in mind, they haven't met yet. This is them just talking without ever having physically met. And I want you to kind of see the vibe and what the conversation was mostly about. Take a look.
Are you truly ready for a committed relationship?
Yes.
Sickness, health.
Yep. Sarcasm, squeaky voice, all of it. I hope to have like a prayerful relationship with you.
That's a foundation for me in marriage. And the fact that you brought that up and I didn't even ask and you were just like, yeah, we're gonna pray together in marriage, means the world to me. She's such a beautiful person. I actually really believe it can work.
All right, so that's just a sample of the types of things that they talked about in the pod. Now, I know that those of you who don't watch the show don't necessarily have something to compare this to, but let me tell you that every now and then, especially with the guys, I would say, you get this feeling that the guy's trying to figure out a little bit physically what's going on with the woman. There has been quite a few guys who will ask things a little bit about dieting or exercise and things like that. Cole didn't seem fixated on that much at all. He's talking about commitment, relationship, asking, through sickness and through health. There's a religious aspect that's important for him. So we're connecting emotionally, religiously. So there doesn't seem to be this big superficial focus. And then at the end, we could see in his interview to the camera, he's excited, he's smitten, he's taken by her. He says she's such a beautiful person. He already sees the beauty in her that is independent of physicality. Now we're gonna look at the moment where they first physically meet. So keep in mind, they're already engaged at this point. They've already said I love you to each other, but they're about to physically meet for the first time. And we're gonna talk about what we're seeing in the body language, in the behaviors, in the facial expressions, and what this means moving forward. But before we do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on for more behavioral analysis and practical psychology content.
I can't run any faster to you.
You're beautiful!
Hi!
You got the girl. We can get out of here now, right?
Oh my God, hi.
Okay, so pretty dynamic first meeting. There's a couple of things that were really interesting to me. First of all, look at him. The moment the doors opened, he starts dashing. And his cue to start running is not seeing her, it's the doors opening. He was prepared to run to her. There's no way that like those doors were gonna open and he's gonna run and be like, oh, whoa, whoa. Like that wasn't gonna happen. His plan was to run to her to begin with. So every now and then with this show, when those doors open, we will see a scan. So the person will kind of quickly scan, or there's a bit of a pause where they're trying to physically take in what they're seeing. So we see this moment of calm before they get excited, before they go to each other. And sometimes that calm actually lasts a little bit and it gets a little awkward. There's been a few of these that were really freaking awkward. But in this case, it wasn't at all. He ran to her instantly. He was excited. We could see it in him. He's also running head first. Like it's just, he is charging at her. Now let's look at her. She doesn't know what to expect. The door's open. She's thinking she's going to walk up there. But the moment she sees his energy, she kind of falls apart. We see her hunch forward, and on her face, we see a lot of interesting things. We see the mouth of surprise as her mouth just drops open. So with surprise, very often it's the mouth opens. And the reason it does that is because with surprise, it's literally the brain going, I don't know what's happening. And we try to take in as much information as we can to assess. So with surprise, things open up. The eyes open up to get more information. The mouth opens up for more oxygen in case we need to react. So things open up. She is excited in this moment. What's interesting is that he caused that excitement because we get a glimpse of her really quickly first as the door opens. She's standing there almost bracing herself for something. She has a very cold look. Her chin is down, and this is protective. Often when we feel vulnerable or defensive, the chin goes down like this to protect the neck, which is very vulnerable. So she's got it like this, looking up. She doesn't know what to expect. But the moment his energy is up there and he runs to her, she comes to life. It's a sweet moment, honestly. Okay, so they met in the pods, really connected emotionally, fell in love sight unseen. They met physically, that went really well. So what could have gone wrong? Let's take a look. Important to note before we look at this conversation that's about to happen that in the pods, before he proposed to Zanab, Cole was connecting with another woman in there by the name of Colleen. Eventually, he told Colleen that it wasn't going to work out because he wanted to pursue Zanab. Now, Colleen went on to get engaged to a gentleman by the name of Matt. So they all went to this vacation together after the proposals. And the conversation we're about to see between Cole and Zanab is after Cole met Colleen. And all the other cast members, by the way. They all finally, all the men got to see what the women look like and the women got to see what the men look like. And this is them talking about it the following day.
After seeing all the girls, are you having any second thoughts? Wow, it's the hesitation for me. It's the hesitation.
Okay, so first and foremost, just quick note, she's right to be skeptical about that. I mean, she asked after seeing the other girls, are you having any second thoughts? And he hesitated and he just kind of looked at her, kind of trying to think about what to say. Notice how this reflection wasn't there when he first met her, when he was talking about her beauty. There was none of this hesitation, but here, and it's off baseline for him, we get this silence. It's not an immediate, no, are you kidding me? Absolutely not. So she's right. She's right to be like, okay, well, that hesitation sucked.
No, I'm not having any second thoughts.
No?
Not even a little bit. Raven's too much for me. Alexa's just not my type. Pauline is happily off with Matt. I mean, everyone's just wonderful.
Ooh, okay, that is some juicy statement analysis. So I know that those of you who are into statement analysis heard it and went, oof. So he goes, Raven is too much, right? So that's a good reason to not be with someone. They're too much for me. Alexa's not my type. So Raven's too much, Alexa's not my type. But listen to what he says about Colleen. Colleen is happily off with Matt. That's not a reason to not like someone, right? The question is, are you happy with your decision to be with Zanab? But he's not saying anything about Colleen that would suggest that he's not attracted to her. It's not like, yeah, Colleen is, different from what I expected, or, Colleen and I just, don't have that connection. I don't know whatever. It's Colleen is happily off with Matt. It's almost regrettable. It's like, well, Colleen's not an option because she's off with Matt. Not because I'm not attracted to her, not because she's too much, not because she's not my type, but because she's with Matt. Especially because it came in threes, like excuse not to be with someone, excuse not to be with someone, missing an excuse not to be with Colleen. It's a big red flag.
Personality-wise, you are much more up my alley.
How do I do physically on your type?
Physically, you're different than anyone I've ever dated.
Oh. Is that hard for you?
Does it seem like it's hard for me?
I don't know.
Heavy webbed. Oh, I'm good.
Then she asks him, is it hard? Is it hard for him that he has emotionally connected with someone who's not his usual physical type? And let's look at his answer. So she says, is it hard for you? And he doesn't say no, he doesn't say absolutely not. He says, does it seem like it's hard for me? And that's a non-answer statement. It's actually a non-answer question. He's answering a question with a question. And this could be playful. This could be interpreted as a playful kind of like, does it look like it's hard for me? Like, you know how attractive you are. You know, they've been intimate together. So maybe he's alluding to the fact that like, does it seem like I am having an issue with your physicality? But it is still kind of a little bit dodgy. And then he goes, no, I'm good. Like not, no, are you kidding? It's great. He doesn't take this opportunity to comfort her. Obviously, this is a moment where she's having a little bit of self-doubt, feeling a little self-conscious. It's an opportunity where a bit of comfort would go a long way. He doesn't take it. I think Cole is actually pretty simple when it comes to profiling or analyzing his behavior. I think with Cole, if he's thinking it, he's saying it. I don't think he has this giant capacity to be deceptive. I think he speaks his mind. And we're seeing quite a bit of that right there. And what's interesting is even Zanab is taking note of that, because in an interview to camera after that scene, she says this.
But Cole is unfiltered 1,000% of the time. But that's part of Cole being just so transparent, which is one of the many things I love about him.
So see, there it is. And I completely agree. She's saying he is always transparent, that he's always unfiltered. So what he says is what he's thinking. She knows that about him. So let's keep that in mind. Let's if we're building a profile on Cole, very much at the top of that list, let's put blatant transparency. What he's thinking, he's saying. And we get so much more confirmation from that a few days later after a pool party. So we're going to see a scene now where they're talking about something that happened at a pool party where they were all there. Colleen was there as well. And he says this. And this is, for me, such an important indication of how his mind works. Let's take a look.
You came over, you were swimming over. And you're like, oh, I'm coming over to my girl. Something ridiculous. And then I asked you to rate me.
I was like, you're a 9 out of 10.
Uh-huh.
And then you were like, is there anyone here who you think is a 10 out of 10? I was just like,
Yeah, Colleen.
I was like, maybe one person.
Oh, man. So here's a pro tip for all the men who are watching this. If ever you're in a situation where you're swimming towards your partner and they ask you if anyone there is more attractive than they are, it's time to practice that backstroke. Just be like, oh, sorry, I can't, and then just pedal away, just pedal away. You know what? I almost admire the honesty, but man, like, how do you recover from that? Let's look at the eyes. I took note of the eyes here. When she said that he swam over to her saying, you know, there's my girl or something ridiculous like that, we see the eyes go up. But this isn't the eyes of recall, where she's trying to recall. It's more consistent with an eye roll, like irritation. Very often when we're irritated with something, we might either see an eye roll or like the eyes go up like this, like give me a break type thing. That's what we're seeing in that moment. But for the rest of the time when she's talking about what was happening, she's either looking at him, trying to gauge his reaction, trying to read him. And when she says what he responded, when he said, you know, yeah, Colleen, she kind of goes from him to just kind of sideways, like, yeah, Colleen. So her eyes are spending a lot of time on this horizontal plane as she's looking at him, she's going here, and they do go up, but as she's kind of emphasizing the ridiculousness of that statement.
And I gave you a 9 out of 10. Do you realize I give like 80% of the women in the world like less than a 7? I gave you a 9 out of 10, okay?
A 9 out of 10. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's my fault because I asked you to rate me.
That scene is a goldmine for body language. Specifically, one thing that happened that we got to see in this moment that I talk a lot about on the channel, but we've never seen it that good. And it's when the tongue comes out and we see lip licking like this. And I often say on the channel that this typically means one of 3 things. The first one is stress. When we're stressed, the mouth dries up, so we tend to lick the lips to correct that. The second is grooming. So any gesture to fix our appearance because we want to appear well, whether it's because we're about to present something and we want it to be accepted, or just we're a little self-conscious, we tend to do these grooming gestures, and sometimes licking the lips brings more color to the lips and can be seen as a grooming gesture. And the third one that I talk about often on the channel is called the tongue jut of disgust. So when something irritates us or disgusts us, we have this more forced, more scrunched, kind of this type of thing where the tongue, it's usually a little bit slower and the tongue goes out a little bit further. We're trying to expel an unpleasant thought. But I've never on the channel had an example as great as that one. That is exactly what that is. It's the best example of it. And if you ever think of the tongue jut of disgust moving forward on this channel, just think of that. So when he says what he said about how I gave you a 9, like you're a 9. So to him, it's like, yeah, fine, Colleen is a 10, but you're a 9. That's still excellent. She does not like this. We see her shut down, her eyes closed. We see an eye block. An eye block, think of an eye block as the garage door to your thoughts. And basically, when we don't want to let something out or let something in, we see eye blocking a lot. So whether we're trying to really focus on something and trying to remember what happened, like trying to hold on to that thought, or we get some bad news or something you don't want to deal with, and you just go, I don't want to deal with that. Notice how if somebody gives you some bad news, you might just, I just don't want to get that picture. Leave it out. This is unpleasant, irritating, and disgusting to her. Okay, so now we're caught up with this issue that's there. And I think for a while, Zanab filtered everything Cole said to her through those lens of she will never be perfect. She will never be Colleen physically. And we'll get back to that. This all leads up to the wedding day where there was a curveball out of left field. Let's look at the wedding day. So remember that she claimed that he told her before the wedding about this girl that he was hitting on the night of the bachelor party. Keep that in mind. Now get ready for the curveballs. So first of all, I know I'm showing you very select scenes from them, showing you the turmoil and the disagreements, but overall, besides a couple of things where they were pointing out things in each other, like in their living habits that needed improvement, and her being a little irritated with him here and there. Overall, they did have a good connection. And even the day of the wedding at the altar, before the moment we're going to look at right now, she said a lot of sweet things to him about their connection, their deep emotional connection. She prayed with him at the altar, thanked God for this experience and for bringing Cole into her life. And so a lot of it was being set up in a very positive way. And then this happened.
I think I have a really good idea about the type of woman that's gonna love you the way that Cole needs to be loved. That is not me. The last 2 months have not been like picture perfect.
It's not just a no, but it's like it's almost like a hell no. Like I know, like there's such certainty all of a sudden in this being a no, and I think that's what was surprising. If it was like a bit of hesitation, and I think at the end of the day it's a no. There's certainty here, and we're about to see a heck of a lot more. I do want you to look at some of the body language here. When she says the way Cole needs to be loved, it's not you. It's not the way you need to be loved. It's the way Cole needs to be loved. And we kind of see this. Look at her head, kind of like this bobbling. And on the face, we kind of see this frustration with that. Like the way Cole needs to be loved, like it's this impossible standard. Like she's irritated at that thought. Then when we realize that this is going to be a no, first of all, we see in his face the realization as he kind of realizes that and his head goes downwards. His head just drops. And again, this is defensive. We're blocking a very vulnerable part of the body, the throat. So he's going down, also in disappointment, sadness, things go downwards. So we're seeing that drop. He's realizing. But he's not the only one who was surprised by this. If we look at some of the guests on her side, we have the woman we're seeing there, by the way, that's her stepmom, who she's very close to because she lost both her parents when she was very young, and her stepmom has been her parent pretty much her entire life since she was a kid. So we see her stepmom. Look at the expression of her stepmom. She's kind of sideways, like turning her ear to this. And when we're really interested in something, we see this turning of an ear because it's like we really want to take this in. So it's getting our attention, not so much our visual attention, but like we really want to hear what this is about. So also it happens in skepticism, right? When someone says something you're not sure, and it's for the same reason, like, I don't know, you're gonna have to tell me a little bit more about this. So we're turning the ear to this situation. And if we look at the gentleman next to her stepmom, which I think is her stepmom's spouse, I'm not 100% sure. I did watch the whole season, but I can't quite remember. So if I'm wrong about this, let me know in the comments. But he walked her down the aisle, so that must be who that is. Anyways, The moment she says the rejection, we see something very classic where he starts to groom and he postures. So he sits up straight and he looks around, and this is something we do when we're trying to save face. In a moment of embarrassment, and I think he's feeling almost embarrassed for Cole in this moment, we try to just kind of like, everything's good, nothing to worry about here. And he's doing that very classic posturing and grooming. Yeah, I think it's just a lot of people are surprised by this, and a lot of viewers are surprised by this because it kind of came out of left field.
You have disrespected me, you have insulted me, you have critiqued me, and for what it is worth, you have single-handedly shattered my self-confidence. And I hate that you have had that kind of effect on me. And the messed up thing is that I know I love you.
Okay, so she planted the knife, now she's twisting the hell out of the knife. Listen, she wants this to hurt. She's really, something's coming out here. A switch has been flipped and it's all coming out. Body language-wise, just a couple of things. First, when she says, I hate that you had that effect on me, we see two things that's really gonna confirm some stuff for me when it comes to her body language. When she says hate, her eyes go upwards. They do that same thing that they did when she was earlier in the bed talking about that thing he said to her. And she says it with the word hate, I hate. Her eyes go up. So I think for her, when the eyes go up, we're talking about frustration, irritation, negative experiences, because twice we see that eye go up with that same sort of negative sentiment. Then she follows immediately by saying, hate that you had that effect on me, and we instantly see again that tongue coming out. And it's not a lick lip, it's not a quick stress or grooming gesture, it comes out quite a bit in that moment. So again, I think we're seeing an example here of something that irritates her, disgusts her, and she's pushing it out. It's so consistent with earlier when they were talking about that conversation when they were in the bed about the pool party. We saw these same things, that eye go up, that tongue jut of disgust, and we're seeing it all over again. One more thing before we move on from this whole day of the wedding thing is in that whole speech where she pointed out the things that irritated her about him, the things that he did to her. Not once did she mention infidelity or even hint at something that happened the night before. Now keep in mind that she's going to go on to allege that he very recently, from this moment, confessed to her that the night before he was hitting on another girl. There's no indication of that. There's no even slight hint of that. Not even something like, and besides what you said to me earlier, I think we both know what you're talking about, that demolished me. There's none of that. She's really trying to paint him as a villain right there on the altar, but doesn't mention the thing that potentially makes him the worst villain in the history of the show. If she wanted to prove that he did her wrong, that's the number one thing she would have in her defense. And there wasn't even a whisper of that. I want you to look at one more thing here before we go on to the actual reunion. I want you to look at him talking to her stepmom. I think we're getting a lot of information here. Look at this.
So sorry. Good luck. I promise you I'll never try to hurt you. I know. You're okay. You're okay. I'll never try to hurt you. You're okay. All right?
All right, so in this moment, there are a few things that, even the critics who go, they're all actors, this is all acting, it's all put on. Even a talented actor would have a very hard time doing this. And Cole isn't an actor. That's not what he does for a living by any means. So let's talk about these things. That is the pure expression of sadness. We can now see his eyebrows going up like this, where the inner corners of the eyebrows are going up. Even if we're seeing it from the side, we could see it happening. And this is very, very hard to fake. Very few people could fake this, to where the outside stays down and the inside goes up. Next, we see the droopiness in the mouth and in the eyes. This is classic expression of sadness. But we're also seeing, look at the chin. It's vibrating. As he's sniffling, that chin is vibrating. That is also extremely hard to fake. So we're seeing a lot of sadness on the face, but ultimately the reason I believe this scene is significant is because he is facing Zanab's stepmother, and saying, I would never hurt her. I never wanted to hurt her. And he's looking at her face and he's saying this, and he's hugging her and he's seeking comfort in her. If this was a cruel man, if he had this intention to be a certain way, this would be very difficult to face her stepmom, who basically raised her, with this amount of emotion. We've seen people on the show before just kind of blatantly break it off at the wedding, and they often put distance between them and the other person's family. In this case, he's almost seeking comfort in her. He's looking at her right in her face and saying, I promise, I never wanted to hurt her. So ultimately, I think as much as there is sadness in this moment for the fact that he got rejected at the altar, I think there's also a lot of sadness at the realization that he hurt her without ever wanting to. Cole reminds me of just a kid who's just doing things without thinking about it. And in this moment, the reality hit him in the face. And I think it's just, it's sad for him to realize that he put her through that. Okay, so now let's look at the actual accusation and the denial and the elements surrounding the moment that happened, and then some clues we get later on as to, who here is being less than honest.
He got a girl's number at the bachelor party or something, and they even talked about that. There was plenty of things.
What?
There was the
I got a
on
girl's
TV.
number at the bachelor party?
Cole, you told me that right before our wedding.
Wait,
We
no,
got
I
together.
didn't.
Yes, you did. I saw you before the wedding. You said, I do have something to tell you. I tried to kiss a girl at the bachelorette party.
Oh my gosh.
You said, I'm engaged to get married and I just want to kiss one more girl. And she was like, no. And I
Literally
said, Cole,
never happened.
Cole, your words to me do not do anything for or to me anymore.
You're making up a story. There wasn't even girls at the saloon.
So first and foremost, Zanab is not the one who brings this up. It's the woman sitting to her left, Raven, who brings it up. And listen, pay attention to the words that she says. She says, there's the fact that he got a girl's phone number at the bachelor party or something. So, or something. Raven does not have all the information because or something, vaguely remembering something. And she goes, and they even talked about that. So she's saying that she didn't see this, but Zanab told her that Cole tried to get a girl's phone number at the bachelor party. That's where information's coming from. That's her source. Now, Cole's immediate reaction to that is, wait, what? So we see the eyebrows go up again, and that's surprise. And he looks completely lost, and he's focusing on that element, calling her out. She's listing things, and he's letting most of those things go, acknowledging that perceivably he could have done that. But this one, he just flat out stops on that, goes, wait, what? And we could see, at least presumably, it's news to him. He keeps saying no. And at the end, he goes flat out, he says, you're making this up. You're making something up. Now, I've said this on the channel before. There isn't anything that liars do consistently. Everyone lies differently. Everyone tells the truth differently. There isn't a single thing we all do when we lie. But in my experience, it's very rare to see someone who's lying about something flat out call someone else a liar. They might say things like, maybe they saw wrong, I'm not sure they remember, but to flat out come out and draw that attention and say, no, that is false, you are lying, it's something that we rarely see. Remember, a liar wants you to like them in order to believe them. So they're not going to do these big drastic things to draw negative attention. It can happen. It has happened. It's just not a common behavior. Add to that the fact that we know that Cole is blatantly and bluntly honest. Even Zanab said, these were her words, that he's 1000% unfiltered. So it seems kind of out of character for him to suddenly deny this thing flat out. Not justify it, not explain it, but to flat out deny it seems a little out of character for him. So he looks surprised, then he looks very confused as she's talking. He's got those eyebrows down of confusion and deep thought, looking at her like, what are you talking about? So there's a lot going on in his body language that suggests this is news to him. But let's look at her. This is why this was very confusing for a lot of people. It's difficult to just flat out make something like that up, right? And let's look at her body language. When she's accusing him, she's looking at him. Then when she talks about how he said that he just wanted to kiss another girl before he got married, what do we see? We see those eyes go up again. Very consistent with her being irritated by him. So again, we have that irritation. Her eyes are going up in that moment. So in terms of deception in that moment, I mean, yeah, she has a pretty increased blink rate and there's even a flutter in there, but this is a stressful topic that she's recalling. So listen, behaviorally, if we look at just what she's saying, and I think this is the reason a lot of people are confused by this, it kind of seems unlikely that she's just blatantly making this up. But then what happens? After he denies it, she says, Cole, whatever, I'm crazy, I'm bipolar. Your words can no longer affect me. So she's focusing on how, like, right now, you can't even affect me anymore. Whereas, to me, it seems like the main focus would have been, are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna deny that we had this conversation in front of everyone? She doesn't seem shocked by the fact that he's denying it. She's kind of washing her hands of his capacity to affect her anymore, but there doesn't seem to be a concern. Like, he's concerned. He's concerned about the way he comes off. He is blatantly calling her out on this lie. But she's not reciprocating by going, are you serious right now? You're gonna deny this conversation? Because she knows that if he denies this, it looks bad on her, like she lied. But she's kind of trying to get off that a little bit. And that was, for me, more concerning than anything I saw behaviorally when she brought up the accusation. But the biggest thing in my head, the biggest thing for me was this. So we have an accusation, we have a denial. This is a reality show. There are cameras, there are producers, everything. Believe me when I say everything is planned by production. Anytime I've ever been on set, at any given second, production knew exactly where I was. They knew where everyone was. They don't want things leaking, they don't want things coming out, they want to have control over the production. Also keep in mind, this is the day before the wedding, which is going to be very important for production to get everything right. Plus, keep in mind, there's all these cast members. So for me, a really big part of what I was thinking about was, okay, if this happened, there would be some other evidence than a conversation that Zanab claims happened and Cole claims never happened. So let's look at what the other cast members are saying.
And y'all went out somewhere, and I don't know the details, but y'all did do something. After the cameras were off, y'all did something.
Where did we
don't
go,
know.
Brennan?
I don't know, man. I was blasted, bro. I had like 20 shots and then like 20 beers. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and we didn't go anywhere because of that. We got Ubered home, dude.
Okay, so there we have Nancy and Brendan, two of the participants, neither of which could corroborate this. Nancy has theories. I don't know what happened. You know, she has no details. She's speculating. You know, I don't know what happened, but you all went out afterwards, you know, when the cameras were off. Speculation, zero evidence. Then Cole flat out goes, no, ask Brendan. He was there. So he's pulling someone else into this. Again, guys, please remember that there isn't anything liars do all the time. But in my experience, it's very rare that a liar will bring someone else into the narrative on the off chance that that person can contradict them. So there's certainty behind this. Cole going, Brendan, where did we go? And Brendan, and even Brendan, can't corroborate that they went anywhere after the show.
Y'all know y'all went
I
somewhere.
know that.
Y'all
I mean,
always
after during the bachelor party, I mean, there were no girls anywhere on it, and then I jumped in an Uber after the bar. So I don't. That's news to me. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong.
Then we have once again Raven, who's purely speculating. Like, you know, you always go somewhere. So that's not facts. It's speculation that she's putting a lot of importance on. And then Matt speaks, and he just, if anything, confirms what Cole said. I know he's saying he's not confirming because he's speaking for himself, but at the very least, even Matt wasn't aware that anybody went anywhere. So no one from the cast has any concrete evidence that anyone went anywhere after the bachelor party. Now really think about this. Cole knows he's on a reality show. He knows that millions of people are watching this. It's one of the most popular shows on Netflix. He knows there's cameras on. He knows that the guys were there. If he thought there was a slight chance that this story can even be corroborated a little bit, maybe one of the guys, maybe he told one of the guys he's gonna go somewhere, maybe the camera caught him going, you know, somewhere other than back home, there wouldn't be this confident denial of like, Brendan, where did we go? Of just this flat out like, this did not happen. Also keep in mind that he knows this is gonna air. If there was anybody who saw him out and about after the bachelor party, right? Because it's unlikely that he went to this place where there's just one girl and she's gonna keep quiet. If he went somewhere else after, he knows that on social media, people are gonna be like, wait a second, we definitely saw Cole the night of that bachelor party, at this place, he was talking to a girl. The sheer confidence in him, flat out denying this, no excuses, no caveats, no, oh, maybe this, I was talking to a girl, but I didn't say that. It's, to me, in my experience, severely unlikely that he's being deceptive in this moment.
I know you are not. I still don't think you're a bad guy. You treated me badly, but I do not think you're a bad guy.
That, to me, is another point for Cole. So Zanab is going, I still don't think you're a bad guy. You were bad to me, but you're not a bad guy. Sorry, anybody who is trying to kiss another girl the night before his wedding is a bad guy, bar none. So I would like to ask Zanab in this moment, are you saying that a good guy would try to get a girl's phone number or kiss a girl the night before his wedding? A good guy would do that? No. So what's happening here? She's saying, I know you're not a bad guy. Why do you know that? If you're saying that he did that before his wedding, that's a bad guy. That's not a good person who does that. So why would she be saying this? Finally, the last thing that helped me piece this together was the whole Cuties story. So this was a big thing all over social media. It was a big thing at the reunion where Zanab claimed that he was trying to control what she ate in order to make sure that her weight is under control. And this conversation happened.
So I grabbed 2 cuties, like little tiny oranges that fit in the palm of your hand. And he goes, well, we're going out to eat later. Like, maybe you should save your appetite.
Oh my God. I cannot believe that you would say that, Zay.
So then Cole looked straight at the camera and said, if you have it, please air it.
This is all working out so wonderfully in your favor because they did not use it.
Oh my God.
But I'm not crazy. I'm not a pathological liar.
If you have it, please air it.
And in that moment, I was like, yeah, I'm on Cole's side on this because like he's begging the camera, like, show them. If that exists, show them. And they did. So production went back and found that conversation and aired it. And here is that conversation.
Are you about to eat 2 of those?
Maybe. That's a serving. You okay with that?
You better save your appetito.
I've only had a banana and a scoop of peanut butter today.
Big ol' sucker tonight. You only had a banana today?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Oh, I could
offered
definitely
you
tell
a
you, but I
poke
probably
bowl.
shouldn't.
So there you have it. It seems that this one was a giant case of he said, she said, to where she interpreted a certain way, and he's going, I can't believe you would say that because that's not what was meant at all. So let's look at the statement, right? She has 2 cuties, clementines, and he goes, are you gonna have both of those? Because you should save your appetito. So he's kind of like humorous about it. And then he says, because they're gonna have a big meal tonight. And you'll see like he's gesturing like, we're gonna have a big meal. Then she goes on to say that all she had that day was a banana. And he goes, why? I offered you some poke. So we're seeing in this conversation literally that if we look at the literal words, what's being said, it almost seems like it's the opposite of what she was trying to construe it as. Like he's trying to say, no, you can't have 2 clementines. Listen, if someone is trying to make sure someone doesn't gain weight, they're going to say, no, load up on clementines, load up on fruit. Don't eat the big dinner we're going to have later. Because odds are the big dinner or the poke bowl that he offered her have quite a lot more carbs in there or quite a lot more calories in there than a cutie. And that seems to be the overwhelming majority opinion of people online saying she really misconstrued that statement. Because the way she made it sound at the reunion is that he was like, no, don't eat, save your appetite because he's trying to get her to eat less. I didn't interpret it that way. However, I'm going to back up Zanab a little bit here in saying this. When early on in their relationship, Cole told her, you're a 9, whereas Colleen, this tiny little ballerina, is a 10, it put goggles on Zanab. Basically that she will never be as physically attractive as Colleen. So now, whenever he says anything, it's possible that it's filtered through those lenses. So when he said, don't eat, doesn't matter what the reason is, doesn't matter what the justification is, doesn't matter what the follow-up is, the moment he said, don't eat, she took that negatively as meaning like, no, try to stay fit. I don't think that's the way he meant it, but I could see why she's looking at this through a different lens. But this is a different situation from the whole hitting on another girl thing, because this cuties thing, the words were said. It's just the interpretation is where the disagreement is. With this girl that he supposedly talked to the night before the wedding, it either happened or it didn't. So what is the final verdict? What do I think of this situation? It's tough to say for sure. We can never know when it comes to deception. Plus, it's such a direct accusation and such a certain confident denial. So you can look at both and go, what the heck's going on here? At the end of the day, let me tell you what I think happened. I think Zanab was having a conversation with the girls, the women, which is why Raven's the one who brought this up in a very uncertain way. I think in that conversation, she was talking about all the things that Cole did to disrespect her. And I think she just threw in this thing about him hitting on a woman at the bachelor party. Maybe it was a hypothetical. Maybe it was, it wouldn't surprise me if. Maybe it was said in uncertain terms. I don't really know. I don't know what the origin of that story was or why it came up, but I think in talking to the women, this thing happened. I think at the reunion, Raven brought it up and Zanab just committed to it and said, yeah, Cole, you totally told me this. And then while he was completely denying it, she kind of tried to get off the subject a little bit. His denial is convincing to me. But the thing that convinces me the most is that unless he's a moron, he knows there's other guys that were there at the event. There were cameras there. Even if he wanted to go somewhere else, they told one of the guys, I think I'm going to head somewhere else after this. A camera may have caught it. One of the guys might rat him out. Something, somewhere. I'm not saying it for sure exists, but if it did happen, he would have it in the back of his mind that I've got to tread softly here because there might be some evidence of it. And then finally, the fact that when we look at the footage of the day of the wedding, there's no indication of that conversation. I don't know when it would have happened, but we see her before hesitating, debating, and again, yes, production could have influenced that, but even on the altar, when she listed reasons that he destroyed her, she didn't bring up the strongest argument for her case, which is, you just confessed to me that you were hitting on another girl last night. There wasn't even a whisper of that at any point. Not at the wedding, even after the wedding. You know, sometimes they think about the afterthought, what happened. She didn't say, you know, he told me something before the wedding that just crushed me. This is the first time this came up at the reunion. There was no other indication of it. There's no other hints or clues or anything that could corroborate that except for her saying that this happened. So is it possible that it happened? Yes, of course it's possible that this happened. It's just if we look at the facts, if we look at the denial, it seems to me highly unlikely that this happened. And if it did, and if there's evidence that comes out, of course that changes things. But so far, with the evidence we have now, to me it seems unlikely. But let me know in the comments whether you watched the show or not, having seen this, what you think. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, and I will see you on the next one.